Okay, therapists. We all know that there's those times when we are in session with kids where all of a sudden we go, I have to set a boundary, or this feels like an important moment to set a boundary. I want to help you out by giving you a two-step process that can help you in those moments where you can set a boundary in a way that keeps your relationship with the child intact, keeps you in connection, keeps the therapy moving, doesn't shut down the play or what's being processed, so that you can stay focused on the integration of whatever it is being worked on, because that's really what we're there to be focusing on. So what I'm talking about is acknowledging and redirecting. So maybe there's a moment when the child grabs a handful of sand, and you know that they're about to throw the sand at you. Or maybe the child is playing with something in a way where all of a sudden you feel like, they're about to break that. Or maybe the child has just said something to you that you perceive as personal and hurtful. Or maybe the child is engaging in a sword fight or aggressive play with you, and it feels like it's too much for your nervous system. In any of these circumstances, and again, so many other circumstances, maybe just the play in that moment, it just feels too much for you. You may find that you want to set a boundary. So the very first thing to do is to acknowledge, because what we know is that children's behavior is wise. And the child, in the midst of whatever it is that they're doing, even if we might be in the moment thinking they can't do this is wrong, they're up to something, and it's purposeful, and there's wisdom behind it. Maybe they are reenacting part of something that feels very historical to them. Maybe it is an expression of just the level of dysregulation that's going on in their nervous system. Maybe they're trying to get a need met in the moment with you by getting your attention in a particular way. Who knows? But whatever it is, they're up to something. And when we acknowledge that, what we're doing is we're helping them not internalize a message of shame, or internalize a message that sounds like, oh, I'm a bad kid. I just did something wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Because in the midst of therapy, what we want is for the child to work through these types of feelings rather than ingesting more of these types of feelings. And so when we acknowledge, we're basically saying, I see you. I really see you. I see you, and I see that you're up to something. And so these moments of acknowledging can sound anything like, wow, that's really big. That feels important for you to do. Or you really want me to understand. Or you're trying to show me. Or your feet just felt like they needed to do that. Or you really want to get that sand out of the box today. Or whatever it may be, right? This is where you get to be creative in your way that you acknowledge the child's wisdom. Once we acknowledge, then we get to redirect. That's where we get to really do the boundary part of this, if you will, which is really just saying, you know what? I need you to shift over here. Because basically the way this is happening, or the way that this is unraveling, feels too big, feels too much right now. So we're basically just asking the child, like, can you shift over here so that we can continue to process, stay in relationship and connection, and to keep the play and the energy moving, which is what's required for integration. I have two golden statements in the redirect process in the playroom, and they are, show me another way, and my body doesn't need to hurt to understand. So what does this look like when you put it together? It can literally sound like, wow, this is so important to you. You really want me to understand. Show me another way. Or, the sand really seems like it needs to come out of the sandbox today. Let's find another way. Or whatever it is. Maybe the child is trying to hurt you in some way. You could add in the second golden statement, which is, you really want me to know what it feels like to hurt. My body doesn't need to hurt to understand. Show me another way. So again, however you want to use the language, I want you to get the gist of what I'm getting at here, which is the acknowledging the wisdom and who the child is in the moment, and that whatever it is that they're doing that you're feeling like you need to set a boundary around has wisdom and purpose to it. And then shifting them into the redirection so that their expression shifts ever so slightly, or maybe a lot, so that it's in your window of tolerance so that you can stay relationally connected to the child and you can keep processing, keep the therapy moving so that the child really hears and feels from you, okay, it's not that I'm doing something bad or wrong. I just need to move this slightly so that my therapist, if you will, can continue to hold this with me, because ultimately that's what the child wants anyway. So next time you're in a moment where you're feeling like, oh, I need to set a boundary, try it on. Acknowledge and redirect. And here's a little tip. If you acknowledge and redirect and you go, that didn't work, that's okay. Try it again. Acknowledge and redirect. Acknowledge and redirect. Sometimes the having to set a boundary over and over and over again is the therapy process, just as a little tip. So acknowledge and redirect, try it out, see how that goes for you in the playroom.